The day started as an ordinary one in Brisbane. Hannah Clarke fastened her 3 children safely into the car for their usual school run. But in mere moments, the scene turned into pure horror. A man cleaning his vehicle heard her desperate screams. A motorist driving past watched her body consumed by fire as she attempted to escape. A neighbor rushed over carrying a fire extinguisher, only to see the car burst into a violent explosion. What was really happening? Why was Hannah desperately calling for her children? And who was the man next to her gripping jerry cans of petrol? This wasn't some random mishap. It was far darker, a terror that had been building over many years. Hannah Clarke entered the world on September 8, 1988, in Brisbane, Australia, born to loving parents Sue and Lloyd. Right from the beginning, she stood out with her vibrant, friendly personality and endless enthusiasm. She had a natural gift for brightening those around her. As a little girl, her greatest dream was to one day become a mother. She shared a special bond with her younger brother, often taking on the role of a caring, watchful older sister. Talented in sports, Hannah excelled at trampoline gymnastics, going on to represent her state by age 16. Her leadership shone through in her senior year of school when peers chose her as school captain, a position given only to those held in high esteem. After graduating, she channeled her love for working with youth into coaching children's gymnastics at the Police Citizens Youth Club. It was there, at age 20, that she met Rowan Baxter, who was 31. That encounter would ultimately change the direction of her entire life. Rowan Baxter was born on May 9, 1977, in New Zealand. His early years were marked by instability and chaos. His father's time in prison during Rowan's childhood left deep scars. Relatives recalled him as an unpredictable boy who showed alarming cruelty at times. One cousin confessed to fearing him, connecting his actions to a long-standing pattern of misogyny in the family. Despite his difficult upbringing, Rowan chased sports, playing rugby at Tanga Boys College before securing a contract with the New Zealand Warriors rugby league team in 2005. Though he technically joined the squad, he never played in a real match and received just a small $10,000 annual deal. Still, he frequently presented himself as a former professional rugby athlete, leveraging the label to boost his image in social and professional circles. People who knew Rowan portrayed him as fiercely competitive, deeply controlling, and easily enraged. He had an intense drive to dominate everyone around him and couldn't handle being turned away. Prior to meeting Hannah, Rowan had already been married once and fathered a son in that relationship. He wed at 18, while his wife was just 16. By the time their son turned 2, Rowan's domineering ways had become unbearable. His wife wanted out, but he wouldn't let her go. He resorted to stalking and threats. In one alarming episode, he claimed he'd hooked up a hose in his car and contemplated a grim end for himself and their child. Trapped and scared, she stayed longer than she wanted. In 2008, while Hannah coached gymnastics, Rowan's son joined one of her sessions. That introduced Hannah and Rowan, despite his marriage still being in place. He pursued her aggressively, assuring her the marriage was effectively over and that he stayed only for his son's sake. Within months of beginning their affair, Rowan officially dissolved the marriage, moved out, and arranged co-parenting. But his intimidating conduct persisted. He kept pressuring and frightening his ex whenever parenting disagreements surfaced. Roughly 6 months into dating Hannah, she learned she was expecting. She wished to continue the pregnancy, but Rowan pushed hard for her to end it, arguing she was too young for such responsibility. In October 2012, Hannah and Rowan wed, with her then 14 weeks along with their first child. Shortly after the ceremony, Rowan ceased paying support for the son from his prior marriage. On April 10, 2013, their daughter Aaliyah arrived. She developed into a lively, articulate girl who adored books and possessed a keen sense of justice. Even young, she observed her father's treatment of her mother and bravely spoke up against it at times. In January 2015, drawing on their mutual interest in fitness, the pair launched a gym called Integrate Gym. Though Hannah's parents and another backer provided funding, the venture eventually faltered. Around then, their second daughter, Liana, was born on March 19, 2015. She carried a soft, soothing energy and frequently stepped in to calm tensions at home. Looking very much like Hannah, she would attempt to ease her father whenever his temper flared. Their youngest, Trey, came on December 4, 2016. Trey clung closely to his mother, enjoyed dashing about and playing, yet found his greatest comfort right by her side. As time passed, Rowan's actions became increasingly possessive and aggressive. His jealousy over Hannah deepened. He restricted her freedom further by forcing them to use a single shared Facebook profile, denying her a private one. Slowly, he isolated her from her once tight family, sharply reducing her interactions with them. His dominance reached the children too. If they didn't clean up fast enough, he'd discard their toys. He'd cancel their eagerly awaited outings to punish Hannah. After one fight, Rowan stormed out with the kids crying. Hannah phoned her mother to vent, but later Rowan recited the entire discussion verbatim. When she questioned how he knew, he admitted to a co-worker that he'd accidentally left his phone recording. The co-worker voiced unease about secretly taping her, but Rowan dismissed the concern. He also dominated their physical relationship, insisting on nightly intimacy and unleashing arguments if she declined, making her days miserable. In one terrifying moment, he shattered her watch during a rage before leaving the house. Fearing he might hurt himself, Hannah frantically called her mother. Worried, her parents searched Brisbane streets for him. When Rowan finally came back, he said he'd sat in a church lot, nearly taking his own life. By November 2019, Hannah could endure no more. In desperation, she contacted a family violence support service, voicing her terror and confusion about leaving without danger. Believing Rowan monitored her constantly, she worked with them to craft an exit strategy. In December 2019, she carried it out. Packing only essentials, Hannah collected Aaliyah from school and headed straight to her best friend's place. She left her phone behind, suspecting Rowan tracked it. The next day, she settled at her parents' house. On December 4, Rowan rang Relationships Australia, a group aiding families in distress. They scheduled counseling for December 10, but he failed to confirm or attend. 10 days later, on December 14, he visited his doctor, disclosing that Hannah had departed with the children. He confessed struggles with control, wept, and expressed remorse. He returned December 16 for a mental health review and received a prescription for Mazepam, often used for sleep issues. Meanwhile, on December 6, Hannah sought legal safeguards. At the police station, she received advice to seek a domestic violence order against Rowan, yet she paused, worried it might inflame him more. Still, she maintained contact with him, wishing he'd remain part of the children's lives. He manipulated her, pressing her to consider the kids and accusing her of harming them by separating. He also told her parents she was unstable, insisting he'd done no wrong. This created a draining pattern. Rowan would vow to return the children, then renege suddenly, plunging Hannah into panic. His stalking mirrored his past marriage. He showed up unannounced, entered her parents' home without permission, and followed her. On December 26, 2019, after a day with the children, he was meant to hand them over. When Hannah arrived, he tossed Lyanna into his car's front seat and drove off rapidly. A worried onlooker spotted it and alerted police nearby. Officers spoke to Hannah, but lacking formal custody papers, they couldn't act. They tried reaching Rowan and checked his residence, but he had vanished. Later that evening, he FaceTimed Hannah and demanded she end an alleged affair or he'd keep Lyanna. Drained, Hannah consulted her lawyer, who drafted a stern letter requiring Lyanna's return. As police concern mounted over Rowan's conduct, they moved to impose a domestic violence order for Hannah, even without her full readiness. Eventually, officers located Rowan at home, just as he loaded Lyanna into his vehicle. They explained the order, prohibiting him from nearing within 300 feet of Hannah or the children until a hearing. Police then retrieved Lyanna and reunited her with Hannah. Rowan was barred from contact until January 4, 2020, for their court date. During a welfare visit, officers saw Lyanna appeared scared. Post-abduction, she developed severe separation anxiety, refusing to leave her mother's side. Authorities suggested Hannah bring the children to child-aware psychology for help, though it didn't occur through the police process. Hannah provided a thorough statement detailing years of abuse. She described Rowan demanding nightly sex while hurling insults, calling her repulsive and likening intimacy with her to having sex with a bucket. She admitted long-standing fear for her life and the children's, after Rowan vividly outlined murdering his ex-wife, their son, and himself. This left her convinced he might do the same to her family. Further troubling signs surfaced on social media. In videos Rowan uploaded, he played excessively rough with the kids, veering into harm. One clip showed him forcing them into an ice bath as little Trey sobbed hysterically. Despite everything, Rowan kept reframing events. While Hannah submitted her account, he contacted police claiming he felt endangered by her. On December 29, 2019, Rowan began counseling, framing it as mental health care. Session records noted his admission of jealousy and that Hannah left due to his controlling nature. Yet no comprehensive family violence risk evaluation occurred. The focus stayed on basic techniques like breathing, ignoring the gravity. His assessment indicated moderate depression and anxiety. He denied any plans to harm himself or others. On December 31, he returned, mentioning the protection order. He alleged Hannah fabricated it all and mourned separation from his children. Discussion centered on the emotional pain of missing them, again without a risk assessment. Rowan kept attending, returning January 6. He lamented the gym's closure, blamed Hannah for airing private issues that ruined his image, and pushed for joint custody amid rising worries. Once more, no risk evaluation took place. Sessions offered only coping ideas like new hobbies. On January 8, court addressed the domestic violence order. Rowan challenged it, but the ruling favored Hannah. It barred him from family violence, endangering the children, nearing within 300 feet of her residence, or contacting her except for child-related matters. Undeterred, Rowan consulted a men's legal service January 17. He claimed fear of Hannah, believing she'd flee with the children and erase him from their lives. His actions grew more unsettling. He appeared at the same cafes and shops as Hannah too frequently for chance. She became certain he'd attached a tracker to her car. His surveillance worsened after a January 21 counseling visit, where he argued he was wrongly labeled unstable to restrict child access. His lawyers sent the court a letter claiming Hannah sought the order only to secure Lyanna. On January 23, the court finalized custody. Hannah received primary care, Rowan alternating weekends, Thursday to Friday every other week, shared holidays, and FaceTime. All handovers occurred at Hannah's parents' home. Even with structure, the children showed clear distress, often reluctant to visit their father, particularly Aaliyah. During one stay, Aaliyah phoned Hannah in tears, saying they drove somewhere unknown. On January 31, Rowan returned Trey past schedule. As Hannah unbuckled her son, she spotted explicit photos of herself placed visibly. Shocked, she snatched them and started inside. Rowan suddenly exited his car and wrenched her wrist behind her back. Hannah's mother called police immediately. Rowan denied it all and attempted a counter-domestic violence order against Hannah. A doctor confirmed Hannah's sprained wrist, applying a splint. She reported the assault and order violation to police. When officers sought Rowan, he refused comment without counsel. Meanwhile, Rowan's world crumbled. He lost his personal training job, and Hannah's lawyers informed his team that due to the incident, she'd suspend the parenting plan, ending his access. Furious, he fixated on rage. Viewing himself as the victim, his denial fueled greater hatred toward Hannah. Despite breaching the order, police issued only a court notice rather than immediate arrest. He also faced common assault charges for her injury. On February 17, Rowan visited a hardware store, purchasing zip ties, a jerry can, and denatured alcohol. The next day, he filled the jerry can with 5 liters of gasoline. During these errands, he bought 3 Kinder Surprise eggs and lollipops. At 3:28 p.m. on February 18, he called Youth and Family Services inquiring about a men's support program. 30 minutes later, he rang a men's helpline with the same question. That night at 6:25 p.m., he phoned a friend sobbing, saying he couldn't see his children. During the scheduled FaceTime, he remained silent for a long stretch, just weeping. Sensing grave danger, Hannah told her mother she needed a will. If Rowan killed her, he'd go to prison, and someone must raise the children. She confided in a gym friend that she feared Rowan would hurt or kill the kids. Her worst fears materialized. On the morning of February 19, 2020, Hannah and her mother stuck to routine, heading to the gym first. Hannah returned home around 6:20 a.m., then went out for coffee for herself and her mom. She sat on her mother's bed, drinking while her mom prepared for work. The children stayed nearby. At 7:20 a.m., Sue kissed Hannah and the kids farewell, unaware it was the last time she'd see them alive. Hannah secured her 3 children in the car to drop Aaliyah and Liana at school. Trey was buckled in the middle, Liana behind the passenger side. As Hannah turned the key, Rowan suddenly appeared, jumping into the passenger seat. Clutching a jerry can of gasoline, he ordered her to drive. Terrified, Hannah screamed for him to leave. She drove only briefly before stopping near a man washing his car outside. In panic, she shouted for help, called the police. "He's going to kill me. He's poured petrol on me." The man saw Rowan restraining Hannah, blocking her escape. She struggled fiercely, but Rowan remained eerily composed, holding complete command. Then, in an instant, Hannah broke loose and staggered out, but it was already too late. Rowan had lit the fuel. Flames engulfed the car and raced over her body. The man acted immediately. Seeing her ablaze, he yelled for her to roll while he grabbed his hose to douse the fire. After putting out Hannah's flames, he sprayed Rowan, whose clothing had ignited too. As the horror sank in, Hannah cried about her children. Grasping her meaning, the man ran inside to phone emergency services. When he returned, another driver, Samantha, had arrived. She'd spotted thick black smoke while passing and sped to help. She took the hose and kept battling the blaze. Samantha remained with Hannah, offering comfort as they awaited responders. Racked by agony, Hannah begged for updates on her children. Another neighbor, Carrie Fernandez, heard Hannah's tormented cries the instant she noticed the burning car. She called for assistance and stayed on with dispatchers while watching events. Soon after, the vehicle exploded into a huge fireball. Carrie seized a fire extinguisher and charged toward it, frantically trying to suppress the flames. The heat forced the car to roll backward, prompting shouts for her safety. Hannah, struggling to stand, wailed in heartbreak, "My kids." Investigators later discovered Rowan had positioned fuel-filled jerry cans right in front of Aaliyah's seat, ensuring the blast hit precisely there. Though Rowan carried no fuel himself, fuel covered each child and Hannah. As the inferno grew, Rowan abruptly re-entered the burning car. For a second, it seemed he might save the children, but he retrieved something and jumped out. A witness quickly saw it, a knife. Realizing the threat, he warned Carrie Fernandez, still fighting the fire with the extinguisher. She retreated as Rowan, now armed, prepared his last act. Without hesitation, Rowan knelt, pressed the knife to his chest, and fell onto it. He curled on the ground and died shortly after. The devastation Rowan inflicted could never be reversed. In one morning, he took the lives of his 3 children, Aaliyah, Liana, and Trey, and left Hannah with burns across nearly her whole body. Even as first responders arrived, Hannah focused only on her kids. She pleaded, "Are they okay? Did someone get them out?" But paramedics already understood the truth. No words could ease her pain. Instead, they urged her to fight for her own life. Knowing consciousness would soon fade, Hannah called her father. When Lloyd Clark answered, he heard only silence. Thinking it a pocket dial, perhaps from a grandchild, he hung up. Only later did he learn its tragic significance. It was Hannah's final, wordless reach to her dad. At 4:50 p.m. that day, Hannah passed from her injuries. She was the last of her family to die. After Rowan's death, police found a chilling message on his phone. It stated, "I'm finishing your game. I don't want to play anymore. You can't mess with someone's life like this and expect them to take it. I have told the kids that you love them. They will miss you, I'm sure." Autopsy findings exposed the full nightmare. Hannah died from multi-organ failure caused by extensive burns. Aaliyah, just 6, sustained burns over 100% of her body. Her blood contained lethal carbon monoxide, meaning she lived through the fire's onslaught. Liana, only 4, perished from severe burns, smoke inhalation, and blaze-related injuries. Trey, barely 3, met the same devastating fate. Rowan, who stabbed himself fatally in the heart, showed no drugs or alcohol. His brain appeared normal, confirming his actions stemmed not from sudden breakdown but from deliberate, premeditated intent. The tragedy of February 19, 2020, unleashed profound sorrow and anger throughout Australia. For many, it exposed a harsh truth: coercive control, the psychological and emotional torment Rowan imposed on Hannah for years, remained under-recognized and frequently overlooked as domestic violence. On March 9, 2020, Hannah, Aliyah, Liana, and Trey were laid to rest together in one coffin. Her brother, shattered by grief, delivered his final words: "I am so sorry I couldn't protect you." If you found this case fascinating, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the Hidden Cases Files. We post crime case videos every night. Until next time, stay sharp, stay vigilant.